Looking at the indices space, we've seen a massive gap higher because of those EU referendum polls that came out in favour of Remain, and therefore the question mark is, are we going to see a continuation of this, or is this a temporary blip towards the upside? We're starting with the FTSE 100. The crucial thing here is the fact that we'd formed that head and shoulders formation. We came back up and closed at 60.60, a massive area, a really important area that we could have seen a reversal very easily, because you can see 5 times in the past we've respected this level as support. We then come up, failed to break through it, and close pretty much bang on it. What happened? Well, the polls came out on the weekend, and ultimately that was really the driver of price action, gave us a massive gap higher at the open, and therefore we've been pushing upwards ever since. Now this pushes us back above that neckline, so pushes us away from the idea that we're going to see a big sell-off in line with this head and shoulders formation, and it also gives us a lot more of a bullish outlook. The hourly time frame, you can see actually, we have seen a period of downside, but that has seemingly formed this sort of tweezer formation, which is now getting some sort of gain. So personally, I think that we're going to see further gains off the back of this. We have seen this gap through a major support level, or resistance level, previous support. In terms of near-term support, obviously 61.29 is providing support at the moment. You've also got those lows of the day after the gap opened. But I do think we're going to see further gains. The problem here is that is reliant on a continuation of this theme in terms of the sort of polls coming out in favour of Remain. But we had got to a point where essentially markets had been quite used to the fact that it was the Leave party that were winning, and therefore we could see a substantial move towards the upside and further gains if we see this move ratified in terms of the favour of the Remain campaign. So I do think we're going to see further upside. I think we've seen the retracement of the day, and we're likely to push on towards the upside. Your next resistance point is going to be 62.07. Then you've got a few more up here, 62.37, 62.58, 62.81. But essentially, we're looking for another move towards the upside to push on from this great start to the trading day today. But beware, this is likely going to be really heavily influenced by what's happening in terms of the polls. The DAX, you can see, we actually have only just started within this hour, started selling off, having been rallying very heavily in the lead up to that. If we look out on the daily time frame, we can see that actually we've managed to break up above this key previous trend line, previous support trend line. Now actually, if we look in the short term, it does provide a bounce on that level, and you can see the lower the day here is just on this 100-day SMA. So largely, it's quite a difficult one to pick through. You can see in terms of this trend that actually we've got the failure to create that new high. We've then got the break to the downside. That would give us a potential perspective of this whole move to be a retracement, and therefore you could be looking at this 101.06, which also coincides with this 101.21, which is an absolutely critical level. So if we get back to, and I do believe we're going to get back to this 101.21 or 101.06, that kind of area, you've got that 76.4 alongside the 101.21, which is an absolutely critical previous support level and resistance level. And therefore the questions are likely to be asked around about that area. But for the time being, I do think we're likely to see further upside, and retracements are good opportunities to be buying in. Again, Europe in particular is very heavily influenced by what's happening in terms of this potential Brexit, because Europe as a whole would be under threat, the whole project, and the potential for other countries to leave. Nevertheless, we're going to be looking out for further upside set against a backdrop of potential polls coming out and heavily influencing what's happening. Again, similar kind of story in terms of the Dow. This is the Dow Jones Industrial Average over in the US. You can see that we gapped open up to the high that we had here, 17777. And that essentially shows that we've seen this sort of bottoming formation, which clearly is a sort of head and shoulders, although the back end of that shoulder is completely missing because of that gap over the weekend. We are pushing higher. If we see a retracement lower, I do think that previous resistance point turned into support, 17,777. That would provide a really good area of support if it is reached. I don't necessarily think it is going to be reached. The daily time frame shows you that largely over the last couple of months we've been near enough sideways, really. We've been seeing some nice swings in either direction, but you can see that candle that we got on Thursday gives us that long lower shadow that was followed up subsequently by a move towards the upside over the weekend. So I do think we're likely to see a bit more of a bullish phase for the Dow Jones Industrial Average. You can see here MACD histogram rolling over towards the upside, against stochastics crossing in a more bullish manner, having been oversold. So there are a few signs that actually we could have bottomed out for the time being, and we could be seeing some further upside. Your initial point of call in terms of resistance is going to be 17,893 and 17,933, but I do think pullbacks are likely to be bought into. But once more, be aware that polls are going to heavily influence this market.